Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to sift through the noise, find those stories, those insights that, well, really matter. Today we're heading off on quite a journey to a small corner of France, the lovely medieval town, or bastide, called Castillonnès. Our mission to kind of unearth its spirit, trace its past, its struggles, its wins, and see how that shapes its identity now and maybe its future too. And our guide for this whole exploration is the August 2025 issue of Le Tambour de Castillonnès. That's the Town Crier of Castillonnès. But this isn't like just your average local paper. Oh, no. It's this incredibly rich mix. You've got local archives, actual fieldwork, people's memories, and even a bit of local fiction woven in there, too. Yeah, exactly. Fiction, too. It gives us this unique way to understand how a community, how it evolves through these cycles of change.
It really does. And what strikes me is how these very local sources, focused on one small place, they give us such a detailed view, almost granular. It lets you see these big universal themes like how outside forces impact a place or the power of memory, how they actually play out on a really human scale in one town.
Okay, so let's dive into a story that just perfectly shows this.
Mm-hmm.
The whole saga of Castillonnès and its train. And this isn't just about tracks and engines, is it? It's a bigger story, hope, ambition, but also maybe a warning about how local dreams can get caught up in, bigger currents.
Precisely. For places like Castillonnès, kind of isolated back then, the train wasn't just technology, it was a symbol, connection, progress. It promised to, shrink distances, open up the economy, link them to the wider world. And that whole theme of connection and how fragile it can be, that's still so relevant today, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And imagine the excitement. Picture it. April 1st, 1928. The town council meets, Mayor André Fregnault leading. There's this buzz, because after all the planning, the waiting, the Cancun-Folguerat railway line is almost finished. Trains are actually going to start running. It must have felt huge.
Monumental, I'd imagine.
Right. So the council, they unanimously decide, even keeping an eye on the budget, to organize brilliant festivities, something really worthy of the event.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't just transport arriving. It felt like a new chapter, a moment of real pride.
And the promise was just immense. Think about what it meant. Boosting local farming, new ways to sell things, and, crucially, linking up with cities like Bordeaux. People could actually go to Bordeaux and be back home the same day.
Okay.
Before nightfall, that was, revolutionary for the time.
Totally. The station itself became this powerful symbol, didn't it? A future opening up. You could almost see the passengers, the goods trains.
Yeah, moving all that local produce and meat.
But this is where the story takes a turn. A really sharp, kind of heartbreaking one. Fast forward just 11 years. January 3rd, 1939. The mood. Completely different. Starkly different. The council's in an emergency meeting now. Mayor Élie Martineau presiding. And they're facing this awful news.
The real threat.
Yeah, the announcement. They're cutting the express trains on the line, which means the Castillonnès station is going to close.
Wow. After only 11 years.
11 years. It must have been a staggering blow, not just for the town, but the whole area.
And Le Tambour shows their protests were really strong, right? Passionate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They argued pretty logically, I think. How could you justify getting rid of the goods service? Especially when they just built a municipal slaughterhouse right there.
Right next to the tracks, specifically for exporting meat via the railway.
Exactly. They warned about serious harm to local trade, municipal finances. This wasn't just inconvenience. It felt unfair. They felt Castillonnès was this active center. It deserved better.
A fight for fairness, really, against decisions made somewhere else.
But despite all the appeals, all the arguments, it didn't work. Their protests were just stifled. Passenger trains got replaced by buses. But the timings were terrible. Forget same-day trips to Bordeaux.
And the fares were higher, too, apparently, for a worse service.
Yep. Higher fares, more discomfort, longer travel. Even the mail got messed up, letters delayed, newspapers arriving in clumps every few days. Their plea, demanding the town benefit from the same advantages as the others, it just fell on deaf ears.
So, despite everything,
the line was abandoned, the train stopped, the station fell silent. That symbol of pride became, a symbol of silence, a promise broken.
It's such a powerful example, isn't it? It really drives home that lesson, how outside decisions determine the development or decline of a region. And the sheer influence of these broader economic powers and diverse interests, often miles away, on a town's actual future. Makes you think, doesn't it? What can a small town realistically do against that?
It does. Yet the railway isn't completely gone from Castillonnès. Its ghost is still there physically. You can still trace the routes in places. And the bridges around town. Apparently, they're kept up really well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and there's even one bridge in a place called the Grand Bois that still has faint smoke marks from the locomotives, like a little whisper from the past.
Wow.
And that slaughterhouse, the one built with such hope, it's still standing too. A quiet reminder.
And it's those personal stories that really bring it alive. Like Françoise Habé's memories in Le Tambour, she talks about her grandmother, Eugénie Lucienne Leray, arriving as a child by stagecoach because her dad, a blacksmith, had come to work for the railway. It connects families directly to that moment of hope.
That's incredible. Stagecoach to railway work.
And she also remembers older people talking about how kids born in the late 40s, they could still recall the very last train. Pulled by a big steam engine, that memory gets passed down.
It cements it in the town's story. And Le Tambour even gives us details about the locomotives themselves, the steam age. The tramways of La de Garonne brought it all in around 1911. They had these different engines, 130 Ts, 030 Ts.
Different sizes for different jobs, presumably.
Right. And proper coaches for passengers, luggage vans with post compartments, and tons of goods wagons, like 72 different types for all the local stuff. It was a serious setup.
Built for a future that just didn't quite pan out as they hoped.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that idea of memory, doesn't it?
It really does. This whole train story, the rise, the fall, the traces left behind it, feels like a perfect illustration of what Jean-Louis Debiassi wrote in his editorial in the journal. He says, "The earth has a memory, a past, and a future. Everything around us is alive, and that the character of the soil, the energy of a place, never disappears completely."
The railway story feels like that living memory, right?
Yeah.
Still shaping the place even in its absence. And this idea of the land itself holding memory. It's explored in the journal in another way, too. Not just history, but fiction. Which leads us to this really intriguing bit. It's part 4, The Oath of Fire, from a story called The Mysteries of the Tumulus, by someone called Brannock.
And a tumulus is an ancient burial mound, isn't it? So the setting itself is steeped in deep time.
Right. And the story describes this character, Brannock, having this mystical experience, a transfusion of soul from an ancestor, Urionos. He sees a blue flame, gets a mission
Which is?
to rekindle the memory and give voice to the earth. Powerful stuff. The imagery is amazing. Brannock does this ritual on the tumulus, tracing circles with a flaming torch, speaking this ancient language, the language of the origins.
Wow. So it's about actively awakening that memory.
Exactly. He makes this oath. Let the living remember and the dead keep watch, for the earth shall be silent no longer. And the effect described is intense. The earth trembles. This ancestral voice rises up. The past isn't just remembered, it becomes present, interwoven with all the dimensions of the world.
That's fascinating. It's like the fiction is tapping into the same deep current as the history, isn't it? It shows how much that idea of collective memory, and maybe even the power to consciously awaken it, is part of the town's psyche. It blends the historical facts we've talked about with this deeper, maybe more spiritual sense of place.
Yeah, it's like fiction giving voice to the soul of the place. So we've got the railway's physical scars of these mythical earth whispers, but there's another layer to Castillonnès' spirit. Something quieter, more discreet. Remember the railway article mentioned the true friends of Castillonnès, who bore high the light of an indispensable moral ideal.
Ah, yes, that phrase stood out.
Well, it turns out there's now a whole book about them. La franc-maçonnerie à Castillonnès, Histoire de la Loge des Vrais Amis.
Freemasonry in Castillonnès' History of the Lodge of the True Friends.
Yeah. It explores this Masonic lodge, the Vrais Amis, that was active in Castillonnès way back from 1805 to 1835. Discreet, but apparently quite passionate.
Interesting. And what does the book reveal about them?
It paints a picture of these men united by ideals, like fraternity, freedom of thought, self-improvement.
Core Masonic principles.
Right. And importantly, it says they acted far from political ambitions, guided by honesty and humility. Their focus was on things like education, solidarity, human progress.
So, a kind of quiet force for good within the community.
Seems like it. And the book names names. Prominent local figures, people from all sorts of jobs, including elected officials, even 4 mayors of Castillonnès.
4 mayors. Wow. So these ideals were right at the heart of the town's leadership for a time.
Looks that way. One mayor specifically mentioned is Marc-Louis de Carbonnier. It gives this rare peek into a sort of hidden but clearly influential part of the town's social history.
And the book goes into detail about Masonic life back then. in a small rural town.
Yeah, it explores things like higher degrees, symbols, traditions, using actual correspondence and archives they uncovered. It reveals this whole unsuspected local heritage.
It sounds like a real immersion into the soul of that early 19th century Freemasonry, lived with, as you said, simplicity and discretion. Given their focus on education and solidarity, you do wonder what specific projects or maybe intellectual discussions they might have quietly pushed forward back then.
Definitely food for thought.
It really showcases how these values, even practiced discreetly, can kind of radiate across the local heritage, as the book description puts it. Their influence lingers.
And the book itself sounds quite thorough. 131 pages, lots of original documents reproduced, illustrations presented clearly too.
Sounds like a valuable piece of local history research.
So we've covered the railway, this big visible project with its dramatic arc, then the almost mystical connection to the land and the fiction, and now this quiet, principled group, the true friends. What's the thread connecting all these for you?
For me, it's really about the layers, how a community's identity gets built. It's not just the big, obvious stuff like a railway line. It's also the forgotten stories, the quiet ideals humming beneath the surface, even the way artists and writers try to capture the spirit of a place. Castillonnès, through Le Tambour, really shows us that local history, when you dig deep like this, it does more than just list events. It reveals these universal things about progress, how communities bounce back, what holds them together, the different ways people try to build something meaningful together.
Yeah, it reminds you that every town probably has these hidden currents, these layers, waiting to be looked at again.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it feels clear Castillonnès is a place where history, memory, these community ideals are all deeply tangled together. Whether you look at the train story or the Earth's echoes in that fiction or the quiet work of that Masonic lodge, it's a really rich tapestry.
It absolutely is. And all this amazing detail, this texture, it comes from that August 2025 issue of Le Tambour de Castillonnès. And it's a free monthly journal. You can just pick it up in shops around town, which is pretty amazing in itself, that commitment to local storytelling.
It really is. And hey, if the Lodge of Les Vrais Amis caught your interest, you can go deeper there too. That new book, La Franc-Maçonnerie à Castillonnès, it's up for pre-order from the association, and it'll be in the Castillonnès newsagents soon. Paperback, €29.
Oh, and we also heard that the fiction piece we mentioned, The Oath of Fire, which is actually the fourth part of the Mysteries of the Tumulus, that whole story is going to be published in a book soon.
Oh, brilliant.
Right.
Something for fiction lovers to look out for too.
Definitely. Lots to potentially explore further.
So keep an eye out for that book. And of course, for the next issue of Le Tombeau de Castillonnès in September, it really is like a window into the soul of this place. We've seen with Castillonnès how the memory of a place is so layered, haven't we? From the physical marks like those smoke stains from a train to the ideals passed down through generations. So here's a thought to leave you with. What about your own community? What are the unseen currents or maybe the forgotten narratives shaping it? And what might happen if you tried to rekindle their memory? How could that shape its future? Something to think about.